Good evening, everybody. This is the JFK show, number 116. This is a special election 2016 edition of the new JFK show, featuring the Dean of JFK Research, Professor Emeritus Jim Fetzer, the leader in new JFK Research, Larry Rivera, and our typical usual host, Mr. Gary King out of New Orleans, Louisiana.
Gary, all right, so let's I'm going to give a background of public events that lead us to infer that Hillary Clinton has serious problems. And then we'll have a video discussion about her problems, how they all add up, and we'll go from there, okay?
Okay. Now, quickly before we start, can someone explain the stretch of how this is a JFK show with a video fakery?
Well, it's because we have spent so much time identifying individuals on the basis of photographic analysis, including Lee Oswald in the doorway. This is an extension. We're identifying whether or not persons being presented as Hillary Clinton are not Hillary Clinton, just as persons who've been presented as being the man in the doorway are not the man in the doorway.
Well, and Black Op Radio, you're kind of, I don't know, like I said, we're copying them, but Len talks about they do shows on political assassinations, and I say that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are absolutely fair game in the political assassination conversation.
Well, no doubt about it, especially since Hillary appears to have been responsible or behind a whole bunch of assassinations.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to review a whole bunch of signs we have that are all in the public domain that Hillary is in bad shape. The first one shows difficulty she has negotiating stairs. She needs the help of several persons each time she encounters a stairway. That's not normal. The black guy on the left in the dark suit will turn out to be a very significant person. Go to the next slide, Gary. Yes. Here we have Hillary freezing up at a campaign rally. And notice the same guy, the big black guy, comes over, tells her to keep talking, gives her kind of a pinch in the back. He actually pushes the other Secret Service agents away. And he, in fact, appears to be a physician whose identity has been disputed by the campaign. Unsurprisingly, they're trying to claim he's actually a Secret Service agent. But look at this. Take a look at the next slide. He seems to be carrying an auto-injection syringe to administer the anti-seizure drug diazepam. You can pull your cursor down.
We
don't need your cursor. Right.
The company
I use my cursor to click the slideshow.
Okay, can't you just hit an arrow, Gary?
Yeah, just use a finger. Just use a down arrow with your finger, Gary. But look, yeah, Don, you wanted to add something here?
Okay, yeah, the official explanation from the Clinton camp is that this guy's a Secret Service agent, and that's just a flashlight. That's a standard issue.
Completely ridiculous. Why would you need a flashlight? Why would anybody need a flashlight?
Aren't most of these, don't they run around during the day? And it wasn't this summer?
Looks pretty lit up to me.
It's completely ridiculous. Go to the next slide. Right, the question about Hillary's handler. I've actually identified this guy as having a medical license from New Jersey. He's an expert in neurophysiology, neurology, sleep disorders, and all that. He's a very sophisticated medical expert who appears to be with Hillary at all times. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a summary about problems that Hillary has, including this hole in her tongue. Now, we have found earlier images where there's a lump there, and it appears this was some kind of cancerous growth that had to be removed, but it's certainly a sign that something else is going on with Hillary. As the next slide shows, we also have reasons to believe she's wearing a defibrillator vest that has is enabled to keep control of your heartbeat. Look at the way in which her coat fits. It seems to be very consistent with the defibrillator vest. If you go to the next slide, you'll find we have many photographs of Hillary using pillows to prop her up. I mean, there are a lot of these around, which once again isn't what we consider to be normal for someone in a normal state of health. If you go to the next slide, when she visited Joe Biden's birthplace in Scranton, they actually put up a handrail so Hillary could have something to hold on to. Further evidence that she suffers from problems of instability, keeping her balance, and all that. Once again, if you look at the next slide, it seems as though we've identified her catheter bag. Hillary appears to suffer from incontinence, and that, this is one of many, many symptoms that go together. We know she fell and suffered a major concussion back in December of 2012, and that she resigned as Secretary of State in February of 2013, and that Bill Clinton himself said that it took her 6 months or more to get over the effects. Well, the reason to believe she hasn't got over the effects, and the first video we're going to play now is a physician giving an analysis of what all these symptoms appear to amount to in his professional opinion.
Thank you for joining me for this exclusive expose into Hillary Clinton's critical and debilitating medical crisis, where right now you will learn the truth. Beyond a shadow of a doubt that Hillary Clinton has Parkinson's disease, you will learn the facts, the symptoms that she is exhibiting from a certified physician who has now gone public with a diagnosis that is being hidden from the public's eye. Joining me now is Dr. Ted Noel. He was trained at Loma Linda University Medical Center, spent 32 years practicing critical care and anesthesia at Florida Hospital, 10 years as the medical director with the Novamed Surgical Center. Welcome to the Next News Network, Dr. Noel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, 24 hours ago, you emailed me after seeing my report where Hillary nearly faints on stage. You know, everyone's seen the video now. It's gone viral. She's pacing back and forth. She's wearing her orange pantsuit. Loud noise, applause. She looks around. She looks dazed. She loses her place. She doesn't even continue the train of thought in the proper place. It looks like she nearly faints. Now, in your email stated, quote, that near fainting episode you reported on is almost certainly a Parkinson's disease freeze. Now, before we get into your observation and diagnosis about what happened there, let's address what the world witnessed on Labor Day, another event in Cincinnati, the mad coughing fit, near vomiting, spitting up. Yet the campaign has dismissed it as talking too much. What do you believe the world witnessed on that day?
Well, first of all, that's not the first fit. She's had so many coughing episodes. There's a YouTube video listing them all, and they're all extended. This is almost certainly related to her Parkinson's disease. A swallowing disorder is one of the most common problems in Parkinson's, and it ultimately is the cause of death in more Parkinson's patients than anything else because they get saliva into the lungs, aspirate, and get pneumonia. Imagine if you were to swallow, you get liquid on your vocal cords, you are going to cough, cough, cough. And that's probably what's happening with her. She's just, because she can't swallow properly, she ends up getting saliva on the vocal cords.
Now, on your website, you make the charge that Hillary Clinton has had Parkinson's disease for at least 10 years. You state that she has known about it for all of that time, yet her campaign shows a complete disregard for America in their own pursuit of personal graft. Now, how do you know that she's had, what makes you believe that she's had this for 10 years? And how is she keeping it quiet?
Well, there are a couple of things going on. For example, there's a problem called Parkinson's disease levodopa-induced dyskinesia, which is where you have that big head bobbing episode where, two reporters asked a question, the balloon drop where she goes through that funky posture. And those things are signs of progressive side effects from levodopa, which is really the only drug out there to treat the disease. And they happen in everybody's case after at least 10 years of taking it, and it can occur as quickly as 5 years. But if we backtrack and we look at the probable sequence, the public record suggests that it starts in 2005 with a fall. And then in 2009, she breaks her elbow. Then in 2012, she has the fall where she gets the concussion. If we look at that, we've got 11 years since the first public record event that's reasonably attributed to Parkinson's disease. And on the side here, please don't take this as a definitive diagnosis. This is my best conclusion based on the evidence that's in the public record.
Now, on your website, you've outlined what you've called a field guide to Hillary Clinton's Parkinson's disease. We will link to it below. I've got a copy of it here. 10 primary points that you say definitively, essentially, proves her condition. We got tremors, freezes, slow movement, Parkinson's, like you just mentioned, dyskinesia. You've got PD postures, signs of swallowing disorder, rigidity, impaired balance, loss of automatic movements, speech changes. I mean, this is a pretty detailed list. Now, I want to go through each one. But first, you know, that picture that everyone has seen where she's struggling to walk up the stairs really, I think, set off a lot of people. The optics were horrible for the campaign, aside from all the coughing fits. What do you make of that moment that the world witnessed when she was trying to walk up those stairs? Couldn't even get up them.
Well, she has two people supporting her, and if you look, there are actually two pictures that are published, and it appears that she needs help in just simply staying upright. This would fit with Parkinson's disease, where you get lower extremity weakness. Now, mind you, if I say she's got weakness, that doesn't mean all the time, because her treatment will make her better and she gets worse. She gets better, she gets worse. So what you see at any moment in time is not necessarily what you're going to see an hour later or a day later.
Now, let's address the discussion of the tremors. The first point in your field guide to Hillary's Parkinson's disease. Explain.
Okay. The tremors, you have two or three things that happen. They are repetitive tremors at rest. The classic one is called a pill rolling tremor, and basically you have this kind of emotion as if you're rolling a pill between your thumb and your forefinger. We've not really seen good evidence of that. I spotted it once, but it wasn't clear enough to put into a video. And she does various things to avoid us seeing it. A lot of times she's holding things, a microphone, puts her hand on her chest, hand on her wrist, basically keeping her hands busy so that they are not at rest to show the tremor. The one that she does show a lot is the head nodding tremor, which is where she does this. And when Bernie Sanders endorsed her, Bloomberg News counted 408 nods. That's a head nodding tremor. It's very common in Parkinson's.
Wow, 408 nods. That's pretty significant in one moment now. Let's talk about the freezes. We mentioned it a few moments ago in that viral video of her walking on stage. Sudden stoppage, normal activity when brain basically shuts down. Explain how you've witnessed this, besides that obvious video that's gone viral.
Well, there are several of them, and there are a couple of videos that have gone viral. You have the one where she is speaking, and all of a sudden there's a disturbance in the audience, and she just freezes. And this attendant comes over and talks to her and says, "It's okay, we're still here, keep on talking." And he has to tell her again, "Keep on talking," and then she breaks out of it. You have the one at the balloon drop where suddenly she sees something, and all of a sudden her head comes up in what we call an oculogyrate crisis. And there are probably 3 or 4 others out there. Basically what happens in a freeze, you either have a visual stimulus, some item of stress. Oh, the one where she does the head bobbing, you have 2 people ask the question at once. Or it can happen randomly, and essentially what happens is a brain that was working at the level of you and me right now suddenly turns into, I can see what's happening, but I can't get anything out to do anything that I can control. And one of the classic descriptions comes from Northwest Parkinson's Foundation, where one of the sufferers says, "I'm walking along, and in short, the freeze hits, I fall over. I can't do anything about it."
Now, what about this slow movement you describe here?
Bradykinesia.
Yeah, bradykinesia, shorter than normal steps, dragging feet. Is that what we would? Do you believe that's what we saw in that picture, where she's struggling to get up the stairs?
But that's a still picture. You know, from a still photo, you have trouble determining what was actually going on. One of the things that the people who are taking care of her do is they make sure she doesn't really expose some of these things. So you make sure her medications are good. So when she walks on stage, sometimes she'll look really good. And she'll walk with a nice brisk step, and her arms will swing normally. Other times her steps are a little slower, they're a little shorter, her arms don't swing as well, or she may be holding on to someone. Those could be the bradykinesias. Again, these are things that are a little hard to tell from the public record. But when you're looking for them, you say, that looks like it.
Okay, let's go down to point. Okay, so we've gone through tremors, point 1, freezes, point 2, 3, the slow movement. Now, you touched on this a moment ago. Number 4, Parkinson's disease, levodopa-induced dyskinesia may be triggered by flashes or loud sounds and randomly without warning. Go into great detail here.
Okay. Levodopa is the only real medicine that's used for Parkinson's. It's the only one that works well. And basically what it does is it supplies a precursor so the body can replace dopamine, which is being lost. And unfortunately, it has a side effect that at 5 years to 10 years, you start seeing these strange movements. Dyskinesia means bad movement. And so what happened at the balloon drop is she literally froze, and then a dyskinesia took up where her head came up, her eyes went over, she looked this way, her eye went back this way with this giant open mouth and the bug eyes, and then she was able to bring it back. That's a PDLID. The other one that's famous right now is when the 2 reporters asked her the question and she goes through this head bopping thing and then says, you've got to try the cold chai.
What was the last part? You try the what?
You have to try the cold chai. She was aware of what was happening, but she couldn't control it. And when it settled down in a few seconds, she was able to try to make a recovery.
Also, what you're stating is that when she said try the cold chai, that was her attempt to discount her behavior as some sort of a brain freeze.
Right. And Lisa Lehrer, who was one of the reporters, said, oh, it was nothing. She was making a joke.
Okay.
Now, here's a further indication that she suffered cognitive impairment when she participated in the Commander-in-Chief Forum with Donald Trump. It wasn't an actual direct debate. She was wearing an earpiece. She was being told what to say, which I think accounts for why her answers were as coherent and pointed as they were. In the next slide, we see that she had this coughing fit. It was actually shown in the video analyzing her Parkinson's during the in-flight press conference, where she had to interrupt herself in the middle and then went off choking and coughing and never came back. In the next, this is a very interesting report from someone who watched Hillary at the American Legion convention. She didn't look well, escorted on stage, leaning on a man's arm. When she spoke, she looked like she just climbed out of a hospital bed. Her hair looked greasy. Her eyes were sunken in pools of darkness and weariness. The National Security Council and intelligence apparatus knows what's up, and they must have contingency plans in place. Mark that well, because today we're going to be talking about the execution of those contingency plans. Something very serious and tricky is afoot. If she makes it through the campaign, which I doubt she'll be traveling in a plane outfitted like a hospital room with a press on the same plane, how is that going to work? It's not. She'll be exposed as being incapable of handling the brutality of the general election campaign road experience. I've done it twice, and it knocks the hell out of 20-somethings. I was always amazed how Helen Thomas did it, but I don't think Hillary looks up to it. If she gets elected, is Bill Clinton going to be running the presidency behind a propped-up Hillary, as happened when Mrs. Wilson ran the presidency surreptitiously when President Wilson had a stroke? Or is President Obama going to declare a national emergency, cancel the election, and seize power for a third term? This is all very strange, and something is seriously off about all of this. Homeland Security taking over elections, possibility of the UN taking over the internet on October 1st, global economy collapsing again, devastating WikiLeaks revelations pending. The Clinton-Bush-Obama simulation of fake realities is about to come crashing down, exposing the lunacy of this evil, treasonous cast for the whole world to see, a neo-Nazi, neo-conservative Fourth Reich.
No, I take exception to that last statement. The Nazis fought the communists, and this is, Clinton, Bush. These guys work for Jews, so.
we needed that, Don. God, did we need that? Now, here's the Clinton campaign attempting to actually rebut. You can only refute something if you prove that it's false. They've done no such thing. They've simply offered rebuttals, claims that it's wrong. And here's some evidence that they're doing a power play that has got nothing to do with medicine or the state of her health. Look at the next slide. Here you got Dr. Drew Pinsky, was asked to retract his comments about Hillary's health, where he did on his television show. CNN demanded that he retract. He was scary, creepy phone calls, and he was fired. His TV show, although very popular, was canceled because he raised issues about Hillary's health. As you see, next.
Yeah. Who runs CNN?
Well, I think it's a CIA op. If you want.
Well,
Let me guess. Hold on.
Jeff Zucker.
Like, who was the seer that Johnny Carson used? The Krinsky, was that the guy?
Yeah.
He'd have to ponder like Gary's pondering to try to have the thought come to him. If you go to the
Swami, yep.
Well, but he had a name. Here it turns out that CNN demanded and then fired him, for having talked about Hillary's. This is brutal. Here it turns out in the next slide, President Obama's own former doctor says that Hillary Clinton should. Next slide, Gary.
I'm sorry. Oh.
Thank you. That Hillary should have a neurological exam, indicating the checkup should ensure she isn't losing her cognitive abilities due to her history of brain injury. Now, this is significant because this is Dr. David Shiner, who was Obama's physician for 22 years. And it's to show that she had a 2-page note from follow-up testing in 2013 is obviously not enough. Then here in the next slide, we see that 6 other physicians, and in this is a wonderful blog by Dr. Eowyn in her Fellowship of the Mind's blog. She goes through 6 other physicians who have raised questions about Hillary's health. This is a very serious matter. And if you turn to the next slide, you find that a Secret Service agent who looked after Hillary is reporting that she has major neurological problems. Now, the following is files from the notes of her physician, Lisa Bardak, which the Clinton administration has disputed, that says in relation to patient Rodham Clinton Hillary, a visit on 5 February 2014, her present complaint, blacking out for short periods of time, uncontrollable twitching, memory loss, fatigue, interim medical history. Patient returned stating that she's still having complications following a concussion in early December of 2012. She states the blacking out, uncontrollable twitching, and memory loss have become worse over the last few months. Patient has been diagnosed with having complex partial seizures in early 2013 and was diagnosed with having early onset subcortical vascular dementia in mid-2013. A friend of mine who's a physician just about gagged when he read that because this is such a serious condition. Medical examination. Patient shows signs of advancing subcortical vascular dementia after an MMSE was performed. Now, that's a test of cognitive or mental function. The patient scored significantly lower on Tuesday's test than when tested in 2013. The patient is also showing signs of having more frequent complex partial seizures. Diagnoses: complex partial seizures, subcortical vascular dementia, impression plan. I discussed with the patient at length about the alternatives, and we elected to maintain her on the present medications with only increasing her medication for the seizures. I have ordered another MRI to be performed. We'll schedule another office after the test is performed. Now,
Yeah, well, wasn't that a forged letter though by a conspiracy?
let me address it, Don. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that we also have the claim to have been presented with a brain scan of Hillary, and there's a bad area, a white area inside the circled area. Now, the next slide shows that a professor of medicine has reviewed these records and explained why they don't have a letterhead. This has been the mantra of the Clinton campaign, claiming that since it doesn't have a letterhead and it's not authentic. She explains it doesn't have a letterhead because it wasn't intended to be mailed. Now, it's entirely possible that we could be looking at a scam like the Dan Rather sting, where he discovered and confirmed word for word a fitness report on George W. Bush that was highly unflattering. He verified it with a commanding officer and dictated it with a secretary who typed it. Nevertheless, when he broke the story, Karl Rove and Karen Hughes, who apparently were responsible for the switch, claimed that it was a fake document done on a type, a font head in the IBM Selectric that didn't exist at the time.
Right.
What had happened was they discovered this fitness report, had it retyped on a more modern head that had a couple of characteristics different than the original, and made the substitution. So people would infer that if it's a fake document, its contents is false, when in fact its content was completely true. If we now go to the next slide, but you have two different diagnoses here. This complex, subcortical vascular dementia and Parkinson's, which have many overlapping symptoms. Then, of course, we have the video of Clinton struggling at the walk after overheating at the 9/11 memorial. And Gary, if you have that one available now, well, we want to play it.
It's a mountain of evidence.
This is all a conspiracy theory, Larry.
That's the head of her detail, by the way, walked between her and the vehicle, which is non-standard.
That's in the video, those pauses.
Right. Thank you, Gary. You're correct. We may be seeing the moment of Hillary Clinton's death.
She collapsed faster than Building 7.
A news alert now. Hillary Clinton leaving this morning's 9/11 ceremony in Lower Manhattan. Her campaign says she felt, quote, overheated. Senior correspondent Rick Leventhal is live at the World Trade Center Memorial right now with the very latest on Hillary Clinton. Rick, over to you.
And Maria, we were first to report this morning after a law enforcement source told me he was within 15 feet of Hillary Clinton as she was leaving unexpectedly well before the ceremony was scheduled to end. They had to quickly call her motorcade to come up and pick up Hillary Clinton because they weren't expecting her to leave at that hour. She was apparently having some medical problems, medical episodes. As you said, her campaign said she was overheated. Some have told me that it appeared that she had fainted as she was then helped into the van. My source told me that one of her shoes actually came off during that episode as she stumbled off the curb and fell, almost fell to the ground, and they lifted her and helped her into the van.
Dragged her into the van. She is dead weight at that.
Quote, have you been going over her calls with her so she knows the Indian Prime Minister is at 8? The aide replies, she was in bed for a nap by the time I heard she had an 8 a.m. call. We'll go over with her. Uma replied, it's very important to do that. She's often confused.
Here it is. Here it is.
Yeah, this one is devastating.
Report this morning after law enforcement source told me. Based on the information that she has provided, her doctors have provided, we were gravely concerned not just about her health care, not about her health, but her health care.
Why?
Well, it's hard for people to understand. I mean, both of us concluded that if we were providing the care that she was receiving, we'd be ashamed to show up in a doctor's lounge. We'd be laughed out.
That is Dr. Drew Pinsky commenting on Hillary's health to KABC Radio Los Angeles. And as we continue on Newsmax Prime, we should note those comments have proved quite costly to Dr. Drew, as he was told that his program on HLN, what is called Headline News, was canceled.
Trump for being the president. Thank you.
See you guys on the plane. Appreciate it.
She took a little short circuit in the brain and she's got problems.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks very much. We can return to slide number 23 at this point in time. This is Hillary just before her leaving the 9/11 memorial effort. That's Chuck Schumer with his hand on her shoulder and heading out to her van. If you go to the next, you'll see this is a still image of Hillary before she is assisted toward and undergoes.
Did I mess up?
Gary.
Yeah, go back. There you go.
Okay, thanks. Now you see where she's undergoing a loss of motor control and heading for the pavement when she's interdicted. And we've seen this now several times in the videos, but my personal opinion is this may be the moment at which she died. I'll explain why I believe that she is dead. If you go to the next, then, of course, because of this business of her health, Hillary's, the question of her health has just become a health campaign issue. And get this, that many people have talked about why they didn't take her to a hospital. Well, it just turns out that Chelsea's apartment is a whole floor. And if you go to the next slide, you discover on the same floor is MetroCare Home Service. If you try to contact Metro Home Service now, they say they're closed, that they only have this archived online for historical reasons. But it appears that the Clinton Foundation bought the Metro Home Service. That Chelsea's apartment actually is simply code for taking her to a special intensive care facility designed just for her. If you go to the next, you'll see what's supposed to be the design of Chelsea's apartment. But that only seems to me to represent part of the floor, and that this has all been a very clever ruse to conceal. I mean, after all, it makes no sense at all when she suffered a serious problem to not take her to a hospital. They didn't take her to a hospital, but claimed to have taken her to Chelsea's apartment, which may or may not be true. And now we want to look at the following video about emerging from Chelsea's apartment later. You're jumping ahead, Gary. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you wanted to play the video.
I want to play the video. That's what I do want to do.
Okay. Now this is leaving the apartment?
Yeah, that's right.
How are you feeling today, everybody?
Great. Great.
What happened?
It's a beautiful day in New York.
How are you feeling today, everybody?
Great. Great.
What happened?
It's a beautiful day in New York.
Now, this person is alleged to be Hillary Clinton, but there are a whole lot of reasons for concluding that, in fact, it is not. This person is 6 inches shorter than Hillary Clinton. This person weighs 35 to 40 pounds less than Hillary Clinton. This person is at least 10 years younger in her appearance than Hillary Clinton. So there have been a lot of issues raised about a body double. If you go to the next slide, you'll see where Hillary has this encounter with a little girl, and it's rather fascinating all by itself, because it turns out the little girl was also present when the Pope came through. I mean, this is fascinating. This little girl is not any ordinary little girl. I'll come back to that. In the meanwhile, what we have here are several images that are suggestive this is not Hillary Clinton, too thin, too young. Go to the next slide, Gary, and you'll see further comparison. Now, that appears to be Hillary on the right, who's got her hand over her heart. If you listen to the doctor, he said that's to control the twitching of her hand. She puts it somewhere so it won't show up. But look how noticeably heavier the legs of the woman on the right rather than the legs of the woman on the left. If you go to the next slide, you see we can all breathe a sigh of relief. Hillary's body double is in good health. I mean, listen, you have to be pretty gullible to be taken in, and yet the mainstream media is still playing it up as though this person who came out from Chelsea's apartment was actually Hillary Clinton. My suspicion, based upon everything else I'm going to present, is that Hillary couldn't come out because Hillary was, in fact, already dead. And as you'll discover, there were multiple reports of Hillary's death, actually from 3 different sources. If you turn to the next slide, you find Hillary's diagnosed with pneumonia, cancels California trip, and yet if she's coming out looking such good health, why would that be necessary? Go to the next slide. We have multiple reports of the DNC holding an emergency meeting to discuss replacing Hillary as presidential nominee. Well, if she were in the great shape of that woman who came out of the apartment building, why in the world would they be holding an emergency meeting? Only if something is up here about which we're not being told. There turned out to be several persons who have been Hillary impersonators. Here's one. Gary, if you go to the next slide. This is Teresa Barnwell by name. Notice when she was young, she looked very much like Hillary. There she is with other imitators, including Bill Clinton and Chelsea. If you go to the next, you'll see an actual photograph of her with Hillary, and that she did look a great deal like her at that point in time. If you go to the next slide, however, you'll find now she doesn't really look as much like Hillary, who has not aged well, and who has, of course, many medical problems that Teresa does not happen to incur. Now, if you go to the next slide, this is one of the the 3 different reports we have that Hillary was dead. This came at about 11 p.m., Eyewitness News, breaking news, Hillary Clinton's death. And there's only, to the best of my knowledge, the only segments we have run about 10 seconds long, because they've gone back to sanitize it, remove it. If you call WABC TV, you get a very charming sounding man explaining, oh, it was just a mistake. Go to the next slide. Here we have an ABC channel reporting Hillary Clinton's death and her body double, but you see it's all been scrubbed. A video clip of WABC TV Channel 7 Eyewitness News in New York City opened last night with anchorman Joe Torre saying, more on Hillary Clinton's death. The opening line, however, has been edited out of the archives. And of course, this raises questions about exactly who that was who came out on the scene. Here's another article just from today. Double hoax. 2 mainstream news reports claim Hillary Clinton died, promptly scrubbed from the internet. Get this. If you try to open that article, the article itself about these 2 reports has been scrubbed. I mean, they're being very thorough. You can't even get a report about the reports having been scrubbed. Now, oddly enough, in the next slide, you find Bill Maher saying, I'd vote for a dead Hillary over a live Trump. Now, that's pretty weird, isn't it?
Well, he's a Jew, so.
Don?
Bill Maher. Yeah, Bill Maher.
One of your patented remarks here?
Yeah, Bill Maher is a big Jew, so I mean, it's not surprising.
God, I'm glad you worked that in. If you turn to the next slide, you'll find the press has been covering up for all these problems. Bill Clinton, during an interview, said that Hillary frequently faints, and then they went back and edited out the frequently, and he tried to make up for it. Oh, very rarely over many years does she have one of these spells. Then you go to the next, and you find Hillary is doing an interview, a phoner, with Anderson Cooper, and this is very peculiar. If you did not know that they have a way of transforming your voice to sound like anyone they would like, you might be taken in. If you look at the very next slide, for example, it appears she is using a voice double, not only a body double, but a voice double. If you go to the next, this guy, David Seaman, is explaining how he was writing for Huffington Post, and he wrote about Hillary's health, and they sacked him from Huffington Post. They cut him off his posting privilege, and he's talking about the Orwellian propaganda of the press, that there's never been anything like it in American history, where the press is being used as a gigantic propaganda machine to cover for Hillary Clinton and to attack Donald Trump. Now, remarkably enough, as the next slide shows, USA Today has picked up on the scandal, reporting the internet thinks Hillary Clinton has a body double, and actually they did a very responsible job of reporting this. Look at the next slide, and you'll see some of the images they presented. Clinton body double. The person outside Chelsea's apartment has skinny legs and torso. You decide, they say. Go to the next. Other images indicating this is not Hillary Clinton. I repeat, she's too young. She's too light. She's got a different body shape. She's too short. This is not Hillary Clinton. If you look at the next slide, and this is all in USA Today, and I got to say, this is a public service being performed by USA Today. That she's got a much smaller stomach, even though the double, I'm convinced, is being padded, given padded clothing to wear. She's on the right, Hillary on the left, of course. And if you go to the next, we have this very curious case of Hillary who's leaning over to this little girl. Remember, she's supposed to be suffering from pneumonia. And the observation has been made, as by the physician we were interviewing before, that there are inconsistencies in Hillary's medical report. She's supposed to have bacterial pneumonia, but it's supposed to be non-contagious. That's apparently not a possibility. Other claims in her medical report are clearly wrong. So here we have Hillary looking at this little girl, and get this, look at the next slide. The same little girl was held up for the Pope when he came through. Now, does anyone think that this is a mere coincidence that the same little girl, who obviously is regarded as a talented child actress, is there to greet Hillary when she comes out, just as she was there to greet the Pope? Here's a fascinating one from Russia Insider on the next slide, which concludes that the best available evidence is that Hillary is suffering from Parkinson's disease. And indeed, that appears to be the case. This is another doctor, Dr. Zudi Jasser, MD, observed what she had was a syncopial episode. She passed out that's either cardiovascular or neurological. Now her team wants us to believe it's dehydration. She didn't appear to be dehydrated, and that doesn't get fixed in 90 minutes. If you go to the next slide, this is in Global Research. This is a very distinguished, high-level international journal, and they're talking about the issue, are we dealing with pneumonia or Parkinson's? Very significant, it reached that level. If you go to the next slide, we have our very Dr. Noel, whom we were interviewing before, talking about the seriousness of Hillary's problems. And notice that image at the top is from the bobblehead reaction she had on that occasion, which was so stunning. Now, if you go to the next.
And her eyes are all crossed up, too.
Yep, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, the bug eyes, yeah.
Now, the Wisconsin State Journal, I'm holding it in my hand, published an article with a phony, the stand-in for Hillary, from the Associated Press as though it were authentic. So I wrote to the paper, the Wisconsin State Journal AP, played by Hillary body double, where I added a paragraph. Editor, the AP story, Dr. Clinton recovering well, fit to serve. Wisconsin State Journal, 15 September 2016, page A11, features a photo of a woman who is not Hillary Clinton. She is 6 inches shorter, 35 to 40 pounds lighter, and looks at least 10 years younger. And I took this image from the online version of the Wisconsin State Journal. She is the woman who came out of the building where Chelsea's apartment is located, but this was a ruse to fool the public into thinking Hillary is doing well, when the circumstances of her medical history suggest the opposite. She is not Hillary Clinton. She needs help negotiating stairs, is frozen up at campaign rallies, has had bizarre bobblehead movements, has had coughing fits that have even stunned the press, has a medical handler with her at all times, collapsed at the 9/11 memorial, and more. And then if you go to the next slide, I continued, and these are the actual letter. The Wisconsin State Journal ought to have followed the lead of USA Today. The internet thinks Hillary has a body double, 13 September 2015, which featured many photo comparisons that leave no doubt about it, where other articles provide even more powerful proof. Hillary Clinton body double. The person outside Chelsea's apartment has skinny legs and torso. You decide. If you go to the next, I added, the situation is outrageous. Hillary has severe health problems. WABC TV actually announced breaking news that she had already died. The Wisconsin State Journal surely can do better than to serve as a propaganda organ for the DNC and the Clinton campaign. And notice this fascinating photograph. We can all breathe a sigh of relief. Hillary's body double is in good health. Wednesday, while I was in the studio with Mitch for the Mitch Hanks show, he reported that his daughter, who was unaware of the controversy and is no conspiracy theorist, spontaneously observed, "That's not Hillary. Perhaps the public deserves to know." And here we have now another video of Hillary today, Gary.
You're watching live satellite news.
Welcome back to Stronger Together.
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And I think Jen and Nick have suggested we do an actual avail on the next leg, if that's okay. So we'll get to North Carolina, we'll do the speech, and then we'll get back on, and then we can answer questions and go from there.
You might want to do it.
I'll talk about that later too. I'll talk about that later.
That'll be tonight after the newscast.
It's done. I am so sad. I know, I really am. It's really a loss. Madam Secretary, however, is coming back. So that's something to look forward to.
Is that odd to watch that? It's a little
No,
bit.
I actually get a big kick out of it.
I watched it with
I watched it with a little bit of skepticism at first, but I got so into it and really liked the storylines. They had some good, quasi-realistic storylines. So anyway,
Anything about North Carolina? Why North Carolina? Can we do something?
Excited to get to North Carolina. Bye.
You're watching live satellite news.
Now, this woman is not Hillary Clinton. I don't know what happened to the images there, but it says behind a third Hillary double on the plane, too tall, too young, wrong nose and earlobe, skinny legs, wrong forehead. This is not Hillary. Notice in particular on her upper lip. Notice here facing you, because this next slide shows Hillary has a mole right there. Do you see it on the very left side of her as we're facing the photograph? It's actually on the right, just above her lip, that this woman does not have. This is not Hillary Clinton. There are a whole lot of other proofs, but the mole all by itself differentiates between them. And if you go to the next slide, Gary, which is the final, will the real Hillary Clinton please stand up? You've got three different versions here. This is leaving to the side Teresa Bardwell, who had imitated her in the past. So we have at least three Hillary Clinton doubles, and the one on the right is the one they're seeking to palm off. I'm convinced that Hillary actually is dead, and we have at least three reports, three different sources that Hillary is dead, including one from Chuck Todd and NBC News, that even Chuck Todd reported her death. I mean, this is stunning stuff. I'm very interested in your reactions. And we can also show a video of Hillary speaking in Greensboro, because that's pretty damn fascinating all by itself.
Well, I think we wanted to play this one here. It's
Go ahead, Gary, play it.
That's a short one. Yeah, here's the death report. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sandra Booker.
And I'm Joe Torres. We begin with the breaking news about Hillary Clinton's death. Hillary Clinton's doctor has just revealed the presidential candidate has been diagnosed with pneumonia.
Now, this after Clinton left the 9/11 memorial ceremony early and was captured on video, appearing to need assistance and to struggle to stay on her feet as she was getting into that.
So let me play the beginning again in case they didn't catch it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sandra Booker.
And I'm Joe Torres. We begin with the breaking news about Hillary Clinton's death. Hillary Clinton.
There you go.
Yeah, we begin with
Gary, I'm sure Don and Larry will agree. They re-edited this and put in the old news about her collapsing to cover the space they had devoted to her death. I mean, this is a clear manipulation of a news report to benefit Hillary, consistent with what Seaman had to say about how we're living in an Orwellian world. Yeah, try that. See what you get there.
All right, now this is a video I brought by.
Yeah, this is today, is it not, from Hillary in Greensboro?
No, this is
no. Today she was speaking at like a basketball gym or something today. I think she was at a school or something.
Yeah. Now, what's going on with this one is the problem is we're talking about how Orwellian is it these days. Is they're having a press conference and Hillary Clinton is not there.
Oh, right. This is a reflection of how sophisticated is the technology, that this appears to be an image of Hillary instead of Hillary actually present. Go ahead and run it, Gary. This is fascinating.
Yeah, it's about 4 minutes. I guess we can do the whole thing.
We got it. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Today is Friday, August 26, 2016. I was working on another video. I had to immediately stop what I was doing to get this. You have to watch this. Guys, Hillary Clinton is not at these speeches, and if she is, there's some trickery going on with the cameras, because watch what happens. She's ending her speech, and you're going to see cell phone cameras. Watch the screens of those cell phones.
She's not there.
Where is Hillary?
Here, right by the podium, you can see her green pant leg right next to this cell phone. This cell phone looks to be pointing directly at the podium. Now, even if it was pointing backwards, like front facing, then what you would see towards the back of the auditorium are people's hands in the image, and probably the owner of the cell phone, their face, because what happens on the front-facing cameras is, look, they are wide-angle lenses. They're not telephoto. So what they do is they capture a very wide angle of image. And you're going to see Hillary is not in this. Look. Where is Hillary Clinton in this? Now, again, even if the person was shooting backwards towards the back of the auditorium, there's no way you wouldn't see people's hands. You could see a hand right behind the camera. That would show up in this image. So what is going on here? This is proof that there is shady stuff happening at Hillary Clinton's speeches. Look, nowhere in that frame is Hillary Clinton. And again, even if they were shooting it backwards, which was why.
In the background, in the green, that's Hillary, but she's not in the cell phone.
The camera or the people's hands waving.
How is that possible?
The camera's tracking Hillary. This is bizarre.
Is she a vampire that doesn't show up on camera?
But yet she's not in this frame. Not at all. And there's two other cameras besides this one shooting the same thing. Let's see if that shows up.
Right, there's more than one.
Yeah, let it go. Yeah, we get as many as 3 here at the same time, if this is the right.
So again, looking at another camera angle, nowhere in this frame is Hillary. How is this even possible? Well, I'll tell you how it's possible. These crowds they're staged. They're fake. Look, these two cameras right here on the left are identical. Identical images within the camera frame, but yet we don't see Hillary. You don't see the Secret Service guy in front of her. You don't see the red in the background. What is going on here? Look, 3 cameras, 1, 2 on the left, 1 on the right. None of them have Hillary in their frame. I'm serious. What is going on? This is complete and utter BS if she is actually not at these events. So how are they doing this? Why are they doing this? DITRH. Hey, listen, this is a great grab if you grabbed it. I don't know who got it, but it was posted August 25th, 2016. The request is to download a mirror. I'm doing that. I suggest everybody else do the same. And somebody needs to answer for this. Clearly, something is going on, and nobody knows what it is.
Well, you know, if you can't get anybody to show up at your rally, this is perfect.
Well, okay, as far as as far as the rallies go, now here's a hypothesis. They're keeping people out of them because with her neurological
the noise,
they don't want all the distractions. Yeah, they're keeping these crowds artificially small.
Sudden noises.
Now, Gary, do you have a video from her speaking in Greensboro today?
I couldn't find any, but
well, it's been all over the internet. I mean,
I just wanted to make a quick comment on what we just saw. Okay, if any of those technicians from Hawkeye Works from the weekend of November 22nd, if any of those guys were around, they would be drooling at seeing this.
Right.
I wish we could have had that technology in our day.
Okay. I got one more video that I brought.
Now, let me give a preface before you play this, Gary, which is the following. You just saw this fancy technology, something going on there. I've already shown you that the Hillary who flew into Greensboro is not Hillary Clinton. When she gives a speech, however, the image that's projected looks like Hillary Clinton. She's bigger, she's older, she looks like the real Hillary. So they appear to be using the technology that can be projected to make it look like the real Hillary, even though it's not. And I think this is very suggestive about the sophistication of what we're up against. Go ahead, Gary.
One comment quick. I saw like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of that speech today on CNN just as it was wrapping up. And it looked a lot like Hillary and it sounded a lot like her. And when she walked away, it had that same big backside that we've been seeing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, there are a whole bunch of reasons why Hillary isn't there, but they may have been able to project the image of a Hillary whom I believe is in fact already dead, as we had from 3 different sources. Gary, go ahead and play this, and you'll see, the level of this technology about which most Americans are unaware.
For both the source and target actor, we are able to manipulate YouTube videos in real time. Here we demonstrate our method in a live setup. On the right, the source actor is captured with a standard webcam. This input drives the animation of the face and video to the left.
It's probably
using face capture software. They're able to control basically a virtual puppet of anyone, complete with facial expressions, and make that person look like they are saying anything they want to, and it looks real.
And think about the difference here where you're seeing a U.S. leader and then in a moment when they show a foreign leader, and think about how different the implication is of showing a foreign leader who's a potential enemy looking silly versus our own U.S. leaders. And then think about how much the words and the buzz terms someone uses matter compared to body language. I mean, it's been estimated by scientists that 80–90% of what we perceive and what we think of another person, whether or not we trust them, whether or not we believe the words they're saying, depends upon body language and whether or not they seem like a trustworthy person. We've really learned to interpret what someone is saying based on the way they're expressing themselves. So look how much you can distort the message by hijacking someone's face. It's really uncanny and eerie.
And there are some people out there watching this right now going, you know, if it was me and I saw that on TV, I would know. But here's the thing about that. This is what they're releasing to the public. This is coming out of several colleges, and they put this together and they're showing what they can do. And as we know, that means that whatever the government has, whatever the establishment has, they've had it for a lot longer. And it's probably much more advanced. Now put that together with a couple of other things like this footage. Take a look at this. What do you think's going on here? Do you think this is real or fake?
The scale of this drill gives teens an opportunity to practice skills and functions they rarely get to use.
Actually, this is a drill. This is a drill they just got done doing in the UK. It was one of the largest disaster drills, if not the largest the country has ever done. And if they played this to you on the television news and you just saw it and they said, disaster has struck in the UK, and you saw this footage,
All right.
Do you think it was real?
I guess we could save that for some of our Sandy Hook videos.
Oh, I love it, Gary. I don't know. You could keep it going as far as I'm concerned.
All right, we can keep playing it. Here we go.
See, without a doubt, how the people are recycling back into the building. See the line of people? All right, we're coming up to the front. Look how they're coming back in. They're taking that turn, watch them take the turn, and they're coming right back into the building.
Before the helicopter video pans out, the people are just filing right back into the firehouse. Songs were attributed to the edited versions of the videos to clearly show how ludicrous it all is. And yes, the video is played forward and backward right before it pans out to show clearly where the people are headed. But this tape, quite clearly, is not lewd. When we focus on individual people in the video, we see the same anomalous behavior.
And we've also reported on this, a story that we wrote called Project Bluebeam, Yes, the Government Research Projecting Holograms of God as a Mass PSYOP. Since the 90s at Los Alamos, they could take a 10-minute digital clip of anyone's voice. And in near real time, the patterns could be cloned to create a convincing, total and complete soundboard of that person. So it's a fake that can make a person sound like a person says anything they want. And if you heard that, you would think it was really that person really saying that. They've been able to do that since the 90s. And now they're showing us that they have this, where in real time, they can make anyone look like they're saying anything. If you put those two technologies together, you can't ever trust anything screwed.
We've been living in a kind of consumer information matrix for a while. They really have distorted and manipulated reality. We know that things are framed on TV, but now with this technology, there's no way to know if you're seeing something that's real at all. And I guess they're going to try to give society schizophrenia, trying to figure out when they're in the real world.
Seeing rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
I mean, you got to see some of the comments. In fact, this was my first comment right here. Actually, that's exactly what I said. Look at this person. This is too far. Very scary potential for misuse. Do not pursue this for the good of humanity. Because as we know, the military-industrial complex always stops pursuing things for the good of humanity. They never do anything that isn't for the good of humanity. And then this person says, potential for misuse. I can't think of a reason you'd want this technology in the first place besides abusing it. And then some guy's like, what about lip sync for dubbed movies? Yes, because that's the reason they're doing it.
I was going to say Bin Laden could use this.
Oh, I love this. I love this. This is really good.
Wake up! Okay? My God.
I mean, on the technical side, it's pretty interesting that it doesn't seem to matter if you're a heavy-set person and the person who's faced on TV is medium build or thin or whatever, or vice versa. Seems like it works regardless, and I don't think the casual viewer has a chance in hell of knowing whether or not those are legitimate facial expressions or ones being employed by this technology.
I don't have anything else to say.
Just think how this technology could be used to discredit Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin by showing saying ridiculous things.
You can start a world war with this.
That's right, absolutely. And this is just the kind of technology the bad guys want to have in order to help them to rule the world. It's truly disgusting. I'm so glad you played that, Gary.
I wonder how many news conferences really was Obama. They don't need him. And
well, I'll tell you something, that this is not a real Hillary who was on the plane, not a real Hillary in Greensboro. The real Hillary appears to be dead. 3 different sources reported it. They're trying to cover it up. They've got a very good actress, but she is not Hillary Clinton. She has a whole lot of features that are different. She's got a different nose, nostrils too small, nose too long, wrong age, no wrinkles, more of a sloping forehead. Real one has mole on upper right lip. Fake one too tall, less weight. Tried to pass on outfit as same she used at a fundraiser, but it's different, not the same as buttons down the front. The other does not. Woven elevated stripes on real one down arm. Fingers too long, skinny on fake. Missing wrinkles above eye. Creases on both sides of the mouth. Wrinkles on forehead. Look at this. This is completely fraudulent. This is not Hillary Clinton. This is a double, and they're palming her off. They want to ride this fake, this double to the White House and take control of the government, and God knows who would be running things.
I just wanted to throw out one alternative possibility. 24 hours ago, I was 100% convinced that she's dead. Now there is an alternative to where, like the doctor said, hey, she can't do full-time work. She isn't up to that. So maybe it's possible they've got a double for doing some of the duties, and then she shows up once in a while when things are under control.
Yeah,
do you agree, Don, that anytime they're using a double, they're deceiving the American people?
Oh,
vitiating the integrity of the campaign, and no campaign who uses a double deserves the respect of the American people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, as soon as that fraud stepped out in front of Chelsea's apartment,
I think that meant that the campaign was dead at that point in time.
The poll numbers now that are coming out in the last few days now show Trump up by 6 points.
Oh, yeah. Hillary's been dropping like a rock. And I don't think this is going to help her campaign either. Larry, do you want to add anything? I know you've got other obligations, and I think we've run the course here since we don't actually have the footage right now of her speaking in Greensboro, but I'm telling you that it may be that they've got such sophisticated technology as we've seen here that they can make you think that Hillary's actually physically there, even though she's not.
Yeah,
absolutely. This is just mind-boggling, and the amount of evidence points, as you correctly have pointed out here, that something serious is going on with Hillary, and they're trying to cover it up. So what's going to happen from here on in? My question is, why wouldn't Bernie Sanders run with this?
Bernie's too nice a guy, Larry. They go after Hillary for her emails. I mean, Bernie has been taken out. Bernie is not going to be a factor. Bernie's.
No, I'm talking about in the primaries when he could have exploited her health.
I know.
And he didn't.
Well, Bernie played a
nice guy. He's certainly not going to reassert himself now.
Bernie got a $600,000 house to shut up and go away.
Gary, is there anything you'd like to say? Because you start off saying this was the creepiest show we'd ever done.
There's no doubt about that. I've been a little ill to my stomach, talking about all these, fluid bags and Parkinson's disease and bugged out eyes. But there's just so many possibilities here. I'm not convinced at all that she's actually passed away. The idea that they've had fake news conferences, they would almost have to, because no one shows up at these things. And the other thing is, I just think there could be more at play, and we may be, of course we're suspicious, but I just think that we may not have gotten the reason why all this is going on. It may just be that she's got to step aside, and they're going to let it happen through health reasons. I don't know. I just don't think we have a good idea of why.
Gary, I appreciate all that, but there's a mountain of evidence they're going forward with a double. Once they've introduced her, there's no going back. Now, once you had her on the plane meeting with the press, there's no going back. And they don't need to go back because they can't go back. This is a brazen attempt to manipulate the American public into supporting a candidate who, in all probability, died on the spot in front of her eyes when she left the 9/11 memorial effort.
Yeah, and okay, even if somehow, she's recovering from that, look, at the very least, what Dr. Ted Noel is saying, just stuff that's out in the public record to a trained medical person, she's had Parkinson's for at least 10 years.
Right.
No way should a person like that be seeking elected office or, being the Secretary of State.
But my opinion is she's the candidate of the CIA, and the fact that she may be dead is not going to stop them in their pursuit of control of the presidency, and they're going to go ahead and fake it. This is the most stunning development in recent American history, one of the most brazen attempts of all time. And I want to thank all three of you guys for joining tonight and talking about all this, even if Gary found it a bit nauseating at certain points in time.
One more comment, Jim.
Yeah.
I've done some research, and the Oprah Winfrey of today, there has been 3 separate Oprah Winfreys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard that too, that she's been replaced.
I love it. Well, that doesn't weaken the hypothesis, does it?
Not at all.
At least 3 doubles of Hillary, at least 3. The woman.
Sometimes when you see these visuals and the condition that she's in, it almost makes you feel sorry for her, but knowing how despotic the Clintons have been over the years and trampled over people, and it just you don't feel sorry for them,
I mean, I do. It's almost like an aunt that was so mean and hateful your whole life, but when she's dying and sick and still feel bad, even though there was a terrible aunt.
The bad guys are going to wring every drop of emotion they can out of Hillary's sick and tired condition, notwithstanding that she may be the most despotic figure in American public life in centuries. I want to thank you guys. This has been wonderful. Shall we draw a conclusion? Gary, do you want to close?
Yeah, we're going to let Don take us out.
I was going to say, no, go ahead, Gary. I just want to say one last thing. So, with somebody in this state, with Parkinson's disease or subcortical dementia where the brainstem is melting away or whatever, by definition, she's not mentally capable of being in office. And that means, by definition, somebody else is running the show. And who is it?
That's right. That's right. And I'll tell you one thing. It ain't Bill Clinton.
No.
All right, fellas. I guess this was JFK show number 16. So we'll see you next week. And me and Larry, and we've been doing some work on Billy Lovelady. So y'all stand by.
I can't wait to see it. Thank you all.
See you next time.
Bye now.